You're standing in front of someone you've met multiple times, and their name is gone. The next 12 seconds represent a window of social recovery, an improvised theater where you angle your body and pray someone else says the name first before the silence becomes permanent. In that vacuum, the immediate instinct is to assume a personal defect. We often internalize this as a sign of being naturally careless or lacking the intellectual bandwidth to keep track of basic social details. For the person on the receiving end, the experience carries a specific sting. The brain interprets a forgotten name as a signal of insignificance, a message that they didn't matter enough to be filed away. These emotional conclusions overlook the mechanical reality of the prefrontal cortex. Working memory functions as a limited holding space, and it often operates under strict physical constraints during a social introduction. Chronic name forgetting is a predictable outcome of a highly active system. It is a byproduct of how the brain handles high-pressure data, rather than a reflection of someone's character or empathy. To see why this happens, we have to freeze the timeline at the exact moment of a handshake. In this split second, the brain is attempting to process a massive volume of concurrent data. Your working memory is already juggling several intense tasks. It is reading facial expressions, registering tone, mapping social hierarchy, and managing the physical mechanics of eye contact and grip strength. This creates the environment for the next-in-line effect. First documented by psychologist Malcolm Brenner in 1973, this phenomenon shows that the anticipation of our own turn to speak dramatically reduces our ability to remember what was said immediately before we started. For those with social anxiety or high self-awareness, this effect is constant. The brain is so busy drafting its next sentence and auditing its own performance that it lacks the resources to record incoming audio. When the other person speaks out their name, that auditory signal is effectively bulldozed by the internal monologue. The name enters the ear, but the internal narrative prevents it from being routed to long-term storage. This represents a preoccupation problem. Capturing new external information is difficult when the brain's processing power is entirely consumed by the internal weather of social performance. Even if the brain is calm enough to hear the name, the information itself is often rejected by the mind's filing system. This is best illustrated by the Baker-Baker paradox, a study published in 1987 by researchers McWeeny and Ellis. The researchers showed participants a photo of a stranger and told them the person worked as a baker by trade. This group showed high levels of retention days later. A second group saw the same photo but was told the person's surname was Baker. For this group, the ability to recall the word dropped significantly. The occupation baker is structurally strong data. It automatically triggers an existing network of associations, concepts like bread, warmth, and early mornings. The word comes pre-connected to things you already know. As a name, baker is semantically empty. It is an arbitrary sound that carries no natural connection to a concept or image. It floats in the mind without a root system. The brain is an efficient machine that prioritizes information with meaning. It ruthlessly purges isolated data points, making a name the least structurally sound piece of information a busy mind can receive. This explains why you might remember the specific way a stranger laughed or a story they told about their childhood, while the label for that person remains blank. The brain prioritizes the texture of the experience over the arbitrary label. Frequent name forgetters often possess an associative memory architecture. Their minds are built to construct rich emotional maps and contextual patterns, rather than storing linear lists of isolated facts. Despite this being a natural function of the mind, the social liability remains. A simple mechanical fix is to verbally repeat the name back immediately during the introduction. This manual repetition forces the brain to interact with the sound. It constructs an artificial structural bridge between the person and the name that the brain's automatic systems usually refuse to build. Forgetting a name is often the byproduct of a mind engineered to prioritize the emotional reality of a person over an arbitrary label. The brain chooses the actual history and presence of the human being over the specific sound they were assigned at birth.